Good afternoon, it's me again. I'm at William Pearce's property today, farm. It's called Orchard Place Farm, in Kent of course, and he's got quite a collection for you to see. I'm going to bring William in now and introduce himself. William?
Hello.
Bit further. Hi William, tell us a little bit about the farm then, and how long it's been in the family.
Oh, it's been in the family since about 1890.
Really?
Yes, my grandfather came here as a tenant of Lord Falmouth, who was still big landowners in the county and around here. And but then in 1918 he was fortunate, was able to buy the farm because it came up for sale. But he didn't want to buy it, but he did buy it in 1918 because my father had been away in the First World War but came back.
Oh, really?
Yes, and his brother William Pearce was killed as a result of the First World War.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, following that, they bought the farm, and since then they've developed it, and we've expanded and bought other land around about as and when bits came up for sale. And
What was it originally, the size of it originally then?
would be about, I guess originally it'd be about 150 acres.
Really?
Yes.
And what are we on now?
Well, we own about 350 and we're farming another 350 of rented land.
And we're into
Around
fruit, are we a fruit or arable?
No, it was originally when I started out, having left school, came straight here. It was a really mixed farm then, apples, pears, plums, cherries, gooseberries, quite a lot of pigs, and a real mixed farm, if you like. And we developed the fruit in particular. Apples and strawberries were the two main things that we developed on, and we went out of plums and gooseberries and rhubarb and all these other odd crops that used to grow, and we concentrated down onto apples, pears and strawberries. But then we went out of that. We grubbed the last apples, I think, just about 20 years ago, in about, yes, about the year 2000. I think it was about then when we grubbed the last apples and decided to go out of that and concentrate on apples, concentrate on strawberries and raspberries, and develop the arable side, as well as then we had a lot of pig sheds because we had 1,500 pigs or more at that stage, and we went out of pigs because we had bought more land down at Hadlow when my brother moved to Hadlow, because we gradually separated our business very amicably, and he now farms at Hadlow, I'm here, and so we went out of pigs then, started developing those buildings as industrial units.
Okay. It's bizarre to me these days that strawberries are not planted in the ground.
No.
It's all in troughs, isn't it, with rock wool and that sort of thing.
Yes, all our strawberries now are on tables in bags, growing in coir.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's that coconut.
Yeah, that's right. Coconut coir, not peat. And they're all in troughs on the ground, all under tunnels. And the raspberries also are grown in pots, which are actually on the ground, but there's no roots in the ground at all.
Oh, okay.
They're all in the ground and fully growing up, but all in tunnels, and all the watering and everything is computer controlled, and that's the way it is.
Back to the original part of the farm there.
Yes.
When your grandfather, obviously.
My grandfather came here first in 1890.
And he rented it off of the
Lord Falmouth. Yes, that's right.
And so he rented about what, 100 acres or so, was it?
Yes, probably a bit more than that, 120, something like that.
And
yes.
I suppose we was back in the old milk churn days and mixed farming.
Oh yes, thoroughly mixed farming then, and I think they did have a few cows, but of course horses on the farm. There were no tractors.
Of course.
And I left school in 1956 and came home to work on the farm, and we still had 3 horses then, I think, working. Yes.
Horses were great, but you had to get up about 4 o'clock in the morning to get ready for work, didn't you?
I don't think they did much work the last few years, because by then we'd gone into Grey Kirky tractors and standard Fordsons and that sort of thing we had early on. And
So do you think it was the Second World War that really pushed the tractors into the farms more?
I think it probably was, yes, that's right. I mean, by then, of course, tractors were sort of coming to the fore, weren't they? And engines were getting better. And the standard Fordson, that was a typical one that was used quite a lot.
They tell me, I don't know if it's true or not, they used to take Sherman tanks back to the farms and cut the turret off them and use them for ploughing.
Well, I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen any
in the
of it.
Fens and places like
They
that.
might well have done. I expect they could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, we had a proper mixed farm in those days and had a lot of pigs, which really is now has developed into all this industrial site that we've got here now. Because we're very fortunate here. We're on 7 Mile Lane, 1 mile from the motorway network, and it's a very good site here for other businesses to have their depot
For
here.
transportation wise, it's ideal.
Yeah, it is.
But this is what I was going to say to you, because back in the older days when we was reliant on horse carts and the rail system, you're not close to a railway line here, are you?
Well, there's Borough Green Station is the nearest, about 3 miles away.
So what did you use to cart your crop to the
Oh
station?
yes, that's right. They used to take it. That I mean, I don't remember that really going on rail at all because by then lorries, when I came in the 50s, was lorries were going up to London regularly, taking stuff there.
To the market?
To the market, yes. And I mean, my brother and I developed transport and we ran about half a dozen lorries at one time as well.
No, that's a good point where we're going to go to next, because you talk about lorries and we've got some lorries to show the viewers, and perhaps we can move on from there now. We've had the history of the farm and... sorry,
Yes.
just to say, your grandfather's name was?
He was William Thomas Pearce.
William Thomas Pearce, and your father's name was?
Frederick Pearce.
Fantastic, and William Pearce of course now.
That's right.
And this has all been on Orchard Place Farm.
That's right.
Thanks ever so
I
much.
should just emphasise the fact that my brother as well, who was 2 years younger, we farmed here together, where he left school later in the 1950s, and we worked very much together and developed the farming business here very much together.
Fantastic.
And so it was he was involved just as much as I was. He was involved in the pig side of it and the arable and some of the crops. I took on the fruit more, apples, pears, strawberries and everything. But between us then we were interested in machinery. We had started a workshop in the corner of the shed, which then eventually we built another workshop, which we've got a proper workshop now. And so we were very mechanically minded. And that's
All
where,
old farmers was though, wasn't
well,
they?
they were, you had to be.
They had to be
Yeah.
backdoor mechanics, didn't they?
That's right. And we built a lot of buildings. They've largely gone now and been replaced by modern industrial units, but we had a whole load of pig buildings there. And we did a lot of our own building because we employed quite a lot of people in those days.
Yep.
You know, you had 20 men on the farm and with pig keepers and lorry drivers, and when you weren't so busy you went and built a shed or did something like that, laid some
Fantastic.
concrete or something.
Fantastic.
So there we are, and we developed it all from there, but gradually we divided the farm up, and my brother now farms at Hadlow, and I'm here.
Perhaps I can visit Hadlow one day, and if you get your brother's permission, and
Well-
he can give me the other side of the story, can't he? He can tell me if he was
There you
lying
go.
or not.
There you go.
When he done the most work, or did you do the most work? Anyway, we'll move on now to your lorries, and
Yep.
let's go from there. Thanks ever so
Okay.
much for your time.
Righto.
Now we're back with William. He's going to show he first picks up the vehicles, and this is what, stage 1, 2, 3?
Well, this is about the fourth one I've done up. Yes, this one here.
Right.
So that's what I quite enjoy doing is with an old wreck, doing it up and making it go again.
What is this vehicle?
This particular one is an Atkinson, 1950, originally belonged to Ferrymasters, the P&O transport company. and it was used by them. Then I don't know when they sold it, but they bought it in 1950. They sold it, and then it went into other use and ended up with a crane on the back as a breakdown vehicle. And then it ended up in a scrapyard, and somebody I knew bought it. They wanted somewhere to put it, and they put it in my yard because they said they were going to do it up, and it sat there under a sheet. And 22 years later he came along and said, I'm retiring, I'm going to Wales, and I'm not going to do it up after all. So so he said, do you want it? So I said, yes, all right, I'll have it, I'll do it up.
It gives you something to play with, doesn't it, really?
Because at my age I'd sort of given up doing up anymore. I thought I had, but anyway, here we are. We can't give it up, can we?
So, we can see we're rebuilding with timber and one thing, and I say it was
That's
in
right.
a very poor condition when you received it.
Yes, most of the wooden frame was rotted away, having been under a plastic sheet, and had got damp and everything there, and so had to remake most of the timber. And I quite enjoy woodwork because by my house I've got a shed there with all the equipment that's needed for making wood and cutting out planing machines, mortise machines, and saw benches and all that sort of thing. I've already got that in another shed at my house.
And we could see you removed the engine gearbox.
Yes.
And prop shaft.
Yes.
We'll get onto that in a minute. So we have a little walk round and you can tell me a little bit about it.
Do you want to come around this way? Well, here we are at the moment. We're sort of largely the frame of the cab is done.
Can I open the door?
Yes. The front and the outside of it around there is fiberglass. The back of the cab was sheet metal, so I've had to replace part of that. And so that the cab is all sort of largely redone now. So now we're moving on to the chassis. Brakes, we're working on the brakes at the moment, and I've got a very good man on the farm, Mark Goodwin, who tractor driver and mechanic, and when he's got time he comes and helps me on some of these heavier jobs because he did an apprenticeship with engineering company, and so this sort of thing is down his street. And his father used to run some lorries anyway, so he is familiar with this older type of braking system.
So we're not talking hydraulic, are we? We're talking, is it hydraulics?
No, this is air brakes.
Air
on here.
brakes,
Yes,
okay.
on here on this one. Yeah, yes. One of the others has got some hydraulic over air over there, or over vacuum rather. But these
The
are.
airbags I can see.
That's right. Yes.
Now, are they
This-
something you put on, or was
No,
they originally?
They were there because this vehicle, it's what called a borderer, although it's a borderer cab, but in fact it's a reaver, which is a rear steer, because this one has got 3 axles, 6-wheeler, and this middle axle steers with the front. Now, I know you may have heard of a Chinese 6 vehicle, which is when the second axle is up close to the front axle and they steer together. Well, this one is near the back axle but steers, and this is here is the linkage that comes through from the front through to the back to steer these axles as well.
No power steering there, I can't see any.
No, unfortunately power steering came in soon after this, but this one missed it. So it's
brute force.
yes, that's right. So this one is quite unusual because Atkinson's made very few of these. They started making them when they thought the regulations, I think, were going up to 40 tonnes gross.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen for quite a long time after that, and so they didn't actually make all that many of this particular model. So, and I know of one other in the country up north somewhere, and I think this is possibly the only other one,
Really?
which makes it a bit more interesting.
It does. Did you tell me the age of it, or did I?
1950.
1950.
Yeah. No, sorry, 1970, making it 50 years old. Get
Sorry,
that right.
1970.
1970,
50 years
making
old.
it 50
Fantastic.
years old.
So we
Yeah.
wander around a little bit to the back of it.
Yes. Yes, unfortunately, because it's got to be painted, I'm putting it back in its original colours. And the chassis and axles and that were silver. And the cab, the bottom half of the cab was yellow, and the top half of the cab was white.
Have you got the photographs, the original photographs of it?
I've got one of, not of this one, no, I've got one of the same, one of their other, because they did have, I think they, Ferrymasters, I think probably had about 5 or 6 of these, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And I've got a picture of one of them anyway, and you can see the colours and everything from that.
Fantastic.
And so that was their original colours, but then they moved on, and I think the later ones that they had were more yellow on them, and I don't know whether they did away with the silver on the axles, because later ones, pictures I've seen really are largely yellow.
Okay. The differential I was just showing of you,
Yes,
that is some piece of equipment there,
it
isn't
is,
it?
isn't it? Yes, that's a very heavy.
Let's see if I can get a top viewing of it. Is it anything special, or is it?
It's I don't think it's anything special. I don't know why it's quite such a heavyweight, because I mean it was built. This was built as a 40-ton gross lorry, and of course they really went for strength and that in those days.
I think we did. We built everything to last in
Yeah,
those
they
days.
did, that's
Nothing
right,
plastic or anything like
That's
that, was
right.
it?
It's the engine which is out over there is Cummins engine, Cummins 220.
We'll have a wander around and look at it in a second.
Yeah.
Let me just quick
Yep.
get a view from the back of the rear axle.
This is a new bit here, because originally there was a different piece on here with a tow bar, because it had a crane on it last. And
Yep.
so this has all been dismantled and cleaned up and been put back, and this is a new piece here that we back here we got made.
Fantastic. I can't believe the size of them leaf springs as well.
I know.
They hold some tons there, wouldn't
Yes,
they?
they are very strong.
Let's get a view from. That's fantastic. Anyway, shall we move on to the engine of it all?
Yes.
Fantastic. Here's some of Williams' woodwork. It's amazing back in the day when, you know, we think of aluminium and titanium and carbon fibre now, where back in those days it was all timber and wood, wasn't it, and steel. Anyway, let's move on to the power part of it all. So, what do we have here then?
A Cummins 220. We've had it out. We had it out because it's so much easier to get in there and clean everything inside the chassis. We've had the front axle off as well, and so we put this out on a sort of trolley which we made up to bring it out.
Yep.
And because really it did run, but it was very lumpy
Intermittent.
and wasn't running properly at all, having stood for so many years. So we decided, and we got some help from a man, Dick Leathers, a chap from down at Dover Way, who was very familiar with these engines and was able to help us. So we ended up, of course, doing the fuel system, getting new fuel pipes here.
Yes, you
which-
said the other day, when I was speaking to you the other day, it's unusual. There's no injectors and pumps with no diesel engines should have.
No, not quite the same. This is a common rail engine, as it's called, whereby the fuel is sort of under pressure all the time.
From
until
the main
yeah, from the
pump?
pump,
Yes.
which means that, that when it fires, a little valve opens and allows some fuel in a sort of
okay.
in a sort of a simple term.
So there's not injectors as we...
Not quite, well, there are injectors, but because it has to atomise the fuel, but
Yep.
they're not quite the same way as the
we
pump.
would think an injector
No.
worked as.
And so there's a new, well, the pump was all reconditioned, the injectors were all done, new pipes.
Heads
and,
off?
We didn't have the head right off. No, we took the rockers all off and redid all of that, and it was the rest of it was in pretty good condition.
It looks in fine fettle to me,
Yes,
but
that's right. So now we've had it running without any trouble at all, and it runs nicely,
Really?
and it's sort of waiting to be put back in there.
So what sort of horsepower are we talking here? Or brake horsepower?
I'm not quite sure what they were classified as. It would be around about 220, 250.
Yep, that sounds about right for the size of old engine.
That's right, because the other engine in one of my other ERF, A-series ERF, that's got a Gardner engine, 8-cylinder Gardner, 8 LXB, and that's 240 horsepower or thereabouts.
And the gearbox on the rear?
Gearbox, this one's got a ZF gearbox, which we've not actually tested at this stage. Everything seems to go all right. We've put a new clutch, we've redone the clutch.
Oh, that was my next question. Obviously the
we've
clutch has been looked at.
taken the gearbox off and redone the clutch and everything. And so that is now in effect waiting to go back into the lorry.
Fantastic. And you said you've had it running on the test bed, have you? Or?
Yes, that's right. This frame it's sitting on, we made that up out of some another frame, and we welded brackets on there properly so that we could run it properly.
Fantastic.
Fortunately, the radiator appears in good condition and
It
holds
does.
water. So
It does.
It's
Well, they do say if it isn't broken, don't change it. do
no, well that's right. I mean this job here now is not actually what some people would call a nut and bolt restoration. I mean, some people will say that you should strip everything down, every nut and bolt and absolutely everything, and redo it. Well, I'm not gone to that extent.
Well,
particularly with this one now, with my age, I don't know how much longer I've got.
I'll
been
be able to.
fit to do it, but so.
I think if you do that, you're rubbing the history away of it.
Well,
I'm like
yeah.
that with tractors.
Yes.
I would prefer to clear coat them,
Yeah.
showing their age,
Yes.
rather than polish them to where they've just come out of the sales room.
Yes, that's right. I know some people prefer to go like that, so that they're like
I mean,
the day they
saying
come
that
out the workshop.
the lorries in the background are a little bit special, with it, which we will get to in the end of it anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, there we are. So it's running. We've got it to the point where it's running perfectly, and we see no reason to do that, because the amount of miles it's going to do now is going to be very few actually.
Yes.
And it'll always sit in the shed. It won't be left outside.
Oh, that's fantastic if you can do
Winters.
that.
So really to sort of do it back so that. But having said that, all of these lorries, that one I will put it through an MOT.
Really?
Yes, because but these other two 1930s lorries don't. There's no point in putting them in an MOT because they would never ever pass.
But they're not taxed either, are they? Because
No, that's right.
it's like a tractor tax, isn't it? You don't actually pay tax.
No, you don't. That's right, on the older vehicles. But this one being 1970, it's coming to the point where actually I don't think I need to MOT it.
Yep.
But I will do, because we've got a low loader we carry steam engines about on, and so we'll probably put the low loader, put it on the low loader.
Oh, you will put
and take it for a run with steam engine on or something to
that'd be
local shows.
You'll have to let me see that site one day, will you?
So peace of mind
Yep.
to put it through an MOT and pass an MOT is what I prefer to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shall we move on now, or is that everything you want to tell me about this vehicle?
I think that probably covers most of it. There's still a lot of work to do.
Oh God. How long would you say it would take you to finish this to the MOT stage then, William? A year?
Well, yes, I hope to have it by next spring, certainly.
Next
out.
spring.
Next spring, yes.
For the summer shows.
Ideally, I should paint the chassis and that myself.
Right.
But the cab, I should get painted by a professional painter.
Yeah.
Spray painting is, I have done a bit of it, but really I don't regard
Leave it
that.
to the professionals.
Yeah,
eh?
that's right. I mean, having rebuilt the thing and everything, what does make it look quite nice is if it's properly sprayed and sign written and that sort of thing.
Fantastic. And will you put your name on the side of it?
No, I should put Ferry Masters back in there.
Back to
original.
Ferry Masters.
Yep, yep.
Right.
Yep.
On that note, shall we move on to the Leyland?
Yes. Well, the Leyland was the first one that I did up back in the early 80s, early 1980. I wanted something to do, and I enjoyed doing up lorries, because we'd run several lorries. You see AECs and a Bedford and an Atkinson Arctic and that sort of thing, taking our own fruit to market mainly, and we were delivering, because we had 250 acres of apples at one time.
And that had to go to the London markets,
Well,
didn't it?
yes, but we were going to Cardiff, Manchester, Bristol, and Leeds markets, and so we ran several lorries at that time delivering fruit, and we did a bit of contract work as well out of Sheerness docks and things like that when we weren't very busy. And so I've always enjoyed lorries, and so this one came up as an option to do up. It's a 1930 Leyland Buffalo, and that's a four-wheeler lorry. It's the heavy weight of the four-wheelers, and in those days it was generally matched up with a drawbar trailer, which
you have
we've got
alongside
over
it.
there. That's right. So
Which I will try to get through.
this one, that's right. I'll tell you the story of the trailer in a minute. This lorry, yes, when I got it, there was no cab on it at all. There was no cab at all. It just got the scuttle. There was no engine covers on it. No rocker cover, bird's nests in it, and engine seized up. No radiator. But the amazing thing was there were two headlights still on it.
Oh, really?
Which are the very things that are
Hard to get
hard
over,
to
really.
get onto. Wouldn't be able to get any today, but it got no radiator or anything else, and the mud guards were falling off, but it did have two original headlights.
Fantastic. It amazed me how you can build a cab, but it's not actually seeing a cab to copy.
I did. The chap I got it from, he was another lorry fanatic man down in Winkley and Devon, and so he had another one with the remains of a cab on it.
Yep.
So I copied that.
Okay.
But we don't know the actual history of this lorry really at all. So that's why I put it back in our own name, which is and this green is the colour that we ran our lorries.
Your lorries was that colour?
Yes, they
Can
were.
I peer inside?
Yes. This is not one of the original lorries that we had originally by any means.
That is.
So
Did you hear that, viewers? Look.
Yes, I like the doors to shut properly and nicely. So yes, I redid it all, had new bonnet covers made. I was able to get parts of a Leyland radiator.
Yep.
And so this radiator actually is made up of bits and pieces.
Yep.
And so I did it in the 1980s and took it on the commercial London to Brighton run 2 or 3 times. then, back in the 80s and early 90s, and it had a flat on it then, a flat body on it then, and then the next thing was I did up a trailer, and that trailer there.
Right.
That trailer, my son found it in a wood down in there, on the other side of Maidstone, and it was obviously, there was an old lorry trailer, but there again the body was all rotted away, there was nothing much left of it. The brakes were all seized up, the springs on it were rusted and
Oh my God.
blown to pieces. So I thought, well, and that sat it, we got that home 30 years ago, and it sat in my yard for 25 years until I decided to do it up, because I wanted something else to do.
Let me see if I can get round the back of it, William, and show the viewers. Right. We're alongside it. Let's see if we can get that focused. And while we're around here, we'll have a quick. Is that original number plate, William?
No, we didn't have a number on it, and I must admit it was a friend of mine. He said he'd got a spare number, and he gave me that one.
Oh, okay.
So I must admit this was back in the 80s when we probably weren't quite so fussy about the detail of matching number plates and finding out the history of it quite so much.
Really?
I was more interested in sort of doing it up
And get it running.
and enjoyed doing it. I mean, some people, of course, they've just got to know absolutely everything about the history of it, you know.
Yeah.
When we come to talk about the other one there,
Yeah.
the man I bought that off, he bought it, and he knows the history of all the old vehicles and the capacity of the engine and the size of the tyres and all the little bits. And he always said he was going to do up vehicles and never did one in his life.
Oh dear.
Knows everything about it.
Yes.
But my view is I don't quite know so much about all the detail of everything, but I enjoy doing them up.
Well, it's the preservation of it, isn't it? At the end of the day,
it is.
It's the preservation. It's
That's
no
right.
good knowing the ins and outs for ducks thingy what's it if it's sitting in a field in a hedgerow,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's right.
It's better for me
Yeah.
and probably quite a few other people that it's in the condition it is
Yes, so people can see. what
and
it
can
was
see the history of the British transport. Once again. Was that your original telephone number?
like. That's our original telephone, Borough 69.
That goes back some, doesn't it? And it's got a cranking handle as well, I can see.
Yes, this has got an 8.6 litre diesel engine in it, Leyland diesel.
Right.
Now, originally it would have been petrol, and it was changed sometime, I don't know when, probably after the war, when diesels became much more the thing to have in lorries. So this was changed sometime, and it's an 8.6 litre 6-cylinder diesel, Leyland diesel. So the handle in the front here was for the original petrol engine and is not connected to the diesel.
Oh, so I was thinking, trying to crank a diesel engine over that side will be quite a...
No, that doesn't. It's on the self-starter, and so that's electric start.
Electric start.
Yeah, electric start. Yes, yeah. The other odd thing about this is that it's got 22-inch wheels on it.
Okay.
Normal lorry tyres are probably 1000 by 20, 1100 by 20, something like that. Well, this is 900 by 22, which is a bigger rim there and a very uncommon size, and it's almost impossible to get new tyres for those.
Really?
Some of the other lorries, the Fodens and that, ran on a 24-inch tyre, and there are some of those available, but this size is particularly hard to get and rare.
The wheel arches, they look absolutely. Did you have them specially made, William?
These mud guards,
Yes.
they're the original mud guard, but all redone. Yes.
Oh, really? Original.
The original shape, yes, because they were rusted away in the middle and in a bad way. And
Yep.
actually, let you into a secret, this is filled a lot with fiberglass.
Don't tell everybody. That's our little secret.
So that's what makes them look nice. But they are the original frames.
Yeah.
And just repaired and
Yeah.
and,
Well, that's.
properly
Now, I see the running boards as well. You've got the big step going into the vehicle, haven't you?
Yes, that's right. Well, then when I did it up originally, of course the chassis and everything, and I had it in a shed at the back of my house then, and I had a dirt stone floor and everything, and I cleaned the chassis up as best I could and painted it originally. Well, then about 15 years ago, when I was sort of retiring from farming and myself and leaving it to the rest of the family, this had got into a bit of a wasn't
Dilapidated.
yeah, it was getting some of the bonnets were getting a bit rusty again, and the chassis was beginning to show a bit of rust because I hadn't done it well enough in the first place. That was
Right.
the truth of it. So I took it back into my here. I took all the body off, took it all to pieces, and rebuilt the body. And then I decided to put drop sides on it to make it a bit more interesting.
Yeah. I can
Because
see that.
Just flats on there. Somebody said to me, "Oh, there's another ABF." And I said, "What's an ABF?" He said, "It's another bloody flat." And somebody said that to me when we were watching vehicles coming into the Brighton run down at Brighton there, when lorries came in, you know, and they'd been restored,
Yeah.
and all they got was the basic cheapest flat, you know.
Oh, okay. No, that,
So I thought I better not
yeah, no,
have
that
any-
looks. I think that finishes it off, doesn't it?
Well,
William?
I think it makes it a bit more like a farm vehicle.
Yes.
With drop sides on it,
Yep.
because that was
Then you throw your produce on it,
yeah, yeah.
and you're going to take down the sides, and you haven't got to sheet it all up all
That's
the time.
right. Yeah, it's quite normal for a lot of farm vehicles then had.
And shall we tell a secret that Rosemary, your wife, dusted all the vehicles off beforehand?
She likes to know that they're presented properly.
Fantastic. Anyway,
So that's when actually the bonnet cover top here and these sides, I did get those all repainted in this second do up, so that's why they look better. But this paint here is the original bit, because I didn't want to redo all the sign.
that is a bit like British racing green colour, isn't it? Really?
It is very similar, but
Very
that's
similar.
the colour that we did have our lorries when we were running them some years ago.
Well, agricultural green. It should be green,
That's
shouldn't
right. Well, I like green. It was seemed to be a sensible colour.
it? Fantastic.
So I think that's really just the history of that. Just a 4-speed crash gearbox.
When you say crash gearbox, now younger folk won't know what you're talking about as a crash speed
Well,
gearbox.
yes,
you
now-
don't ram it into another lorry and then change the gear, do you?
You have to match, in effect, match the forward speed to the speed of the engine, so that when you change from one gear to the other, you've got to let the engine revs die down if you're changing up, so that you can put it in the next gear, because the gearbox, you've got gears spinning round,
Yes.
coupled to the wheel speed, and you've got other gears going round coupled to the engine. So basically, without making a crunch, you've got to get those two to match up.
To line
And
up
when
and
you're going
everything,
up a
isn't it?
hill and you have to change down, you want to change gear quickly, and you then have to, you have to double your clutch, what you call double declutch.
I see you waving. Is this one of your...
Yeah, this is Mark. Now just take a picture of Mark. He's
I'm going to run over there.
too embarrassed for that. Who knows all about the brakes. I'm too embarrassed for that. He needs a haircut. Apart from that, he's all right.
Right, William. Last but not least, in the lorry series anyway.
Oh, well, I can show you another one. This is not the last one.
Oh, really?
Now this one is the second one I did up in the late 1980s, early 90s. AEC Mammoth Major back in Express Dairies colour, which it was new to Express Dairies.
Original.
Yes, in 1948 they bought it, and it was used at the Cricklewood Bottling Depot, North London, for taking crates of bottled milk out to all the little distribution dairies and shops all around North London. And so Express Dairies had it from 1936. Is that what I
Wow.
said?
36.
Yeah, 1936 till 1948, and they sold it in 1948. So all during the war, it was delivering milk all around North London.
Really? It reminds me a bit of Dad's Army, really, doesn't it? The butcher and his butcher's van, but
Yes, yes. So anyway, so I got it. It had no body on the back of it at all. The remains of a flat again.
Yeah.
On the back, the cab, the driver's side was completely rotted away. The other side was there, but very rickety, but you could pick it out, and I was able to rebuild it all from really this half, which was still serviceable. So a lot of the woodwork, it's wooden frame, of course. This is aluminium panelling on here that
Yeah.
was all there originally. Well, this wasn't, because it's all new aluminium, and a lot of the wooden frame is new behind it. But I mean, the window frames are original, and so there we are. It was in quite a bad way when I got it. As I say, it had been well, just to follow the rest of the story of it, Express Dairy sold it in 1948. It was bought by a chap who took the body off the back and put another body on in 48, and took it up to, and he was a northerner, and it ended up using it to cart cotton bales from the docks in Liverpool to the cotton mills in Manchester.
really,
Yes.
what a history of it.
Yes, it is, and he used it from 1948 to the mid-1960s.
My God.
I know, and of course spare parts. He was an owner driver, you see, and was
Yeah.
doing that, and I think he vastly overloaded it, because the back springs on this were just a conglomeration of all sorts of leaf springs that obviously he had broken springs, replaced them with whatever he could get
Well,
at the time.
That was what it was like back in the day.
It was,
It was make do amend, really,
That's
wasn't it? You
right,
had to
it
be
was.
out the next morning for deliveries.
Yep,
You couldn't
yep.
wait for someone to deliver in 6 months' time another
No.
leaf spring.
That's right. So anyway, I can see he was an owner driver, and he used it and thrashed it, and by the time it was left there up in Liverpool, the chap I got it from, Chris Sallyman, he was very knowledgeable about vehicles and lorries, and actually used to do the commentary to the London to Brighton run down on the front when lorries were coming in. He was,
Really?
yes, and
Fantastic.
this belonged to him, and he was going to do it up, but actually he never got round to it, so he said, did I want it, when he saw what I'd done with the Leyland.
Oh, God, yes.
He said, would I like this one? So I said, well, yes, all right. So that started quite a long story of about 10 years doing this one up.
10 years?
Well, I was busy on the
Farming.
farming then as
Yes.
well, of course, and it was purely a sort of something I did in the winter sometimes, or the evenings and weekends and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
round behind my house, and only when I'd got time. And I must admit, with this, I'd sort of got halfway through it, and it was the chassis and brakes and everything were all in a bad way, and I did get to the point where I thought I'm never going to finish this, but then it did tend to get left. For
I'm
a
afraid
couple
that
of
goes for
years.
everything, doesn't it? You
Yeah.
at one stage in every project, you think, God, this is going on forever. When is it going to
know.
come to an end? But it does.
Yeah, well then it got left for a while, and actually we went off and rebuilt a steam engine and things like that with my brother. And
God.
then after about 4 or 5 years I came back to this and thought, come on, you've got to get on and get this finished. So we set about it and built the body on the back, because I have actually got a picture of the of this lorry lined up with quite a lot of other lorries at Cricklewood Bottling Depot. This one actually backed up against the ramp with some
No,
Fodens
no,
and
that's
other
the
AEC.
history, isn't it, there?
Yes, it is. I
It
could
is.
show you that later.
I did notice something weird about the wheels here. Now, the chrome cover around the wheel nuts, is that there to protect, stop the wheel nuts falling off?
well,
or,
I mean,
or is that just decoration?
That's typical AEC.
Really?
Most AECs had that. That was one of their sort of things. A lot of these older vehicles have nut guards, you see, and I mean the Atkinson, that has a different type to this one, but that's the sort of common AEC type.
Oh, okay, it's not a step to getting out of it, or I can see that's because it's too far forward.
That's purely all AECs. I think nearly all AECs
I mean,
came off there.
today we put plastic lugs on them, so you
Yeah.
can see wheel nuts are coming off and on.
Yeah.
But something like that, where it retains the nuts there, and you've literally got to physically unbolt that
That's
to get
right.
to the
You
the
do.
nuts
I mean,
itself.
on my ERF, that's got an ERF disc on it as well. But we have to take that off when it goes for an MOT because they want to actually see the nuts behind it, you see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to give a shot inside the cab if that's all right with you again, William.
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm trying. Up there. Now that is a handbrake, isn't it? That is what you call an handbrake.
That's right. That's a ratchet brake and goes off with a clunk. 4-speed again, crash gearbox.
And this on the side is
That's
the...
the electrical controls.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's the switches for the lights and everything else. So all of that cab was all renewed.
You've done all the timber work in here completely.
Yeah, yeah.
And the...
But you see, these cabs were built by Express Dairies because they bought so many vehicles. They had hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, and that they built their own cabs.
Yeah.
They had their own bodybuilding department. So all these cabs were actually not a set design. They were more or less designed by the chap who built them. So this shape of cab is really just...
It's pattern, really?
That's right. And then, you know, other AECs came in and others of this age I've seen in these pictures, the cab's slightly different. They decided to put a different type of running board over the top and, you know, they were more or less as they went.
Right, it's a twin wheeled at the back, I see.
Yeah.
Twin axle, I should say.
Yeah, just drives on the front one of the two.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question, William. So the modern lorries, they jack that wheel up. Obviously, there's no way you can jack that wheel up.
No, that's right.
Sorry, I've just tried to damage something of William's. Oh, it's got a sliding shutter door on the rear.
Shut the door.
Can I lift it up?
Yeah. Now, the secret what's in there is that is the back of a kitchen, and there's a table in there and a nice double bed up the front.
Oh, so you can stay overnight?
Yes,
So,
so my wife and I, we go to shows and we can stay
Oh,
and look after ourselves.
That must
and-
make the atmosphere of a show much better, mustn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. No, we've got all the accommodation. Here's the chairs when the sun's shining and tables to put outside and...
Fantastic. And William, I'm round the other side now, and it's got a side door to it. It's
That's
up.
right. Well, that side door, a lot of the lorries had that because often they were unloading crates of milk.
Sorry, the side door was for.
Unloading crates of milk onto the pavement when, of course, they were delivering crates to shops or little distribution points. They would just draw alongside and they would be handing crates out, all by hand, of course, and empty crates back in. So that's why nearly all of these lorries of that era, they all had a side roller shutter door.
Okay. Is this the fuel gauge or is it just?
Yeah, that's the fuel gauge.
That's the main fuel gauge,
Yeah.
not one in the cab, obviously.
No.
That's fantastic. It's in amazing condition, and thank you for showing it to me.
Well, this one, yes, we put this body back on. We built the body ourselves here. I had a little bit of help with doing some of the framework for it, but This here is a vacuum for the fuel supply. Autovac is what they call an autovac. The vacuum on the engine, there's a vacuum there which draws fuel from the tank which is down there, draws it up here and keeps a reservoir of diesel fuel in here, which
Gotcha.
then gravity feeds into the pump on the engine.
Amazing. I mean, they was definitely built to last, wasn't they? They wasn't slapped together or anything like as modern vehicles are. I mean, it's sort of like both the Leyland, especially a bit like the London bus, isn't it? Really, it goes on forever, doesn't it? Really.
Yes. Well, AEC, of course, they made all the London buses for
Oh, did they?
the Mark Ones, and yes,
That's
all the London
fantastic.
buses that we knew originally, they were all AECs. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time now, William, and we'll move on to other things, and it'll be a part 2. And thanks for showing me all your vehicles.
Hope you enjoyed that, people. Thanks to William again for letting me see his vehicles, and hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, yeah, it'd be nice if you would subscribe to the channel. It'd make the videos more popular. But I do appreciate you coming, and for now, cheerio.